The unwanted gift. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the massive docking bay of Galactic Federation Station Epsilon 7, staring at what was supposed to be humanity's great honor, their first contribution to the Federation fleet. The starship before her, designated as the GSS Phoenix, looked more like a museum piece than a functional vessel. It tall, stretching nearly half a kilometer in length, bore the scars of countless repairs, patches of mismatched metals creating a patchwork pattern across its surface. Quite the gift, isn't it? Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, her chief engineer, joined her at the observation window. His dark eyes scanned the vessel with an intensity that suggested he was already seeing past its weathered exterior. The Federation's generosity knows no bounds. Sarah detected the subtle sarcasm in his voice, but maintained her diplomatic composure. After all, the station's sensors could pick up their conversation. It's a testament to Federation engineering that it's still operational after 80 years of service. A sleek crystalline being floated toward them, its translucent body pulsing with patterns of light that indicated speech preparation. High Commissioner Zix 427 of the Federation's Integration Committee had overseen humanity's admission process for the past 3 years. Commander Chen, the Commissioner's translator, rendered its light patterns into crisp English. I trust you find your new command adequate. The Phoenix may be of an older generation, but it should serve well for training purposes. Sarah nodded, keeping her expression neutral. We're honored by the Federation's trust, Commissioner. Though I admit, I'm curious about the ship's unusual power core configuration. Our preliminary scans showed some interesting readings. The Commissioner's lights flickered in what Sarah had learned to recognize as mild surprise. The Phoenix uses an obsolete quantum fusion matrix. Most Federation vessels switched to crystalline power cores decades ago. Unfortunately, the older system is somewhat temperamental. Marcus coughed quietly beside her, and Sarah knew he was suppressing a laugh. The Federation's superior crystalline cores were notoriously rigid in their operating parameters. Humanity's own experiments with quantum fusion had shown remarkable potential for adaptation and modification. I'm sure we'll manage, Sarah said. When can we begin crew integration? Your core crew of 50 humans may board immediately. We've assigned 10 Federation technical advisors to assist with your transition. The Commissioner's lights dimmed slightly. Do remember that any modifications to Federation equipment must be approved through proper channels. The paperwork typically processes within 6 to 8 months. After the Commissioner glided away, Marcus finally let out the laugh he'd been holding. 6 to 8 months. The power conversion matrices alone need immediate attention if we want to maintain basic life support. Sarah smiled for the first time that day. Fortunately, the Phoenix's systems are so outdated that our repairs might not register on modern Federation scanning equipment. Gather the senior staff. We need to talk. 2 hours later, in what would become their main briefing room, Sarah faced her command team. Besides Marcus, there was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their quantum physics specialist and second engineer, Lieutenant Commander Diana Walsh, weapons and tactical, and Lieutenant James Carter, their operations and sensor expert. All of them had been chosen not just for their technical expertise, but for their ability to think creatively under pressure. They gave us this ship for 2 reasons, Sarah began, activating a holographic display of the Phoenix's systems. First, to keep us occupied while they decide how much they really want humans involved in Federation defense. Second, because they think we can't possibly do anything interesting with technology this old. They don't know much about human history, do they? Diana grinned, her fingers dancing over a tablet displaying weapon specifications. Some of our greatest innovations came from working with obsolete technology. Exactly, Sarah agreed. The Phoenix's quantum fusion core is actually more flexible than modern Federation designs. Their crystalline cores are more powerful, but locked into rigid operational patterns. This older system, she highlighted the engine room schematics. It's like giving a mechanic an old combustion engine instead of a sealed electric motor. We can actually get in there and make changes." Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "The power distribution network is practically asking to be modified. Federation ships waste nearly 30% of their energy maintaining perfect system symmetry. If we reroute through adaptive matrices, using Earth's quantum uncertainty principles," Yuki interrupted, her eyes bright with possibility, "we could create dynamic power flows that would be invisible to standard Federation scans. They're so focused on stability that they don't even look for controlled fluctuations." James raised his hand slightly. "The sensor systems are similarly basic. Federation ships rely on crystalline quantum entanglement for detection, but this old girl still uses wavefront analysis, with some tweaks from our own gravity wave research." "Hold that thought," Sarah interrupted, noting a light on her console. "Federation inspection team coming aboard in 10 minutes. Remember, we're just grateful junior partners learning to handle our outdated but serviceable vessel." She smiled. For now. As her team dispersed, Sarah took one more look at the Phoenix's schematics. The Federation had given them what they thought was a relic, suitable only for training the newest, most primitive members of their alliance. They didn't understand that humanity had spent centuries learning to do more with less, to find advantages in limitations, to turn weaknesses into strengths. The Phoenix might be the oldest ship in the Federation fleet, but in human hands, it would soon become something entirely new. They just needed time, creativity, and the Federation's continued underestimation of humanity's potential. Sarah switched off the display and headed for the airlock to greet their Federation advisors. Let them think they were doing humans a favor. The Phoenix was about to live up to its name in ways the Federation could never imagine. Breaking the mold. 3 weeks into their command of the Phoenix, the human crew had already begun to transform the ancient vessel from within. The Federation advisors assigned to them watched with a mixture of confusion and dismissal as the humans spent countless hours studying the ship's obsolete systems. Deep in the engine room, Marcus Rodriguez wiped sweat from his forehead as he and Dr. Tanaka put the finishing touches on their first major modification. The quantum fusion core hummed with a slightly different pitch now, one that would have worried any Federation engineer but brought smiles to their faces. "Power fluctuation patterns are holding steady," Yuki reported, her eyes fixed on readouts that would appear chaotic to anyone trained in Federation methodologies. "The uncertainty matrices are masking the efficiency improvements perfectly." Marcus nodded, making a final adjustment to the plasma containment field. Federation systems are so focused on maintaining absolute stability that they completely miss the advantages of controlled chaos. "We're getting 30% more power, and their sensors read it as normal operational variance." Above them, Commander Chen's voice came through their communicators. "Engineering, we have a Federation patrol ship requesting a joint exercise. Time to see if our modifications hold up under scrutiny." The Phoenix moved into formation alongside the Federation vessel Eternal Light, a sleek crystalline ship that seemed to mock their own weathered appearance. Lieutenant Commander Walsh stood at her tactical station, hiding her excitement as she prepared to test her own modifications to the weapon systems. "Phoenix, this is Captain Nexel of the Eternal Light." A precise, slightly condescending voice came through the communication system. "We'll begin with basic maneuvering drills, though please don't strain your systems attempting to match our performance." Sarah acknowledged the transmission professionally, then switched to internal communications. "James, how are those sensor modifications coming along?" "Ready to go, Commander," Carter replied from his station. "They'll see exactly what they expect to see. An old ship struggling to keep up. Meanwhile, our new gravity wave detection system is giving us readings that would make their sensors jealous." The next hour proved both frustrating and satisfying. The Phoenix deliberately performed at slightly below Federation standard, while its crew gathered unprecedented data about Federation ship operations. Every time Captain Nexel offered condescending advice about improving their performance, Sarah could feel her crew's quiet satisfaction at their hidden achievements. Their careful masquerade was interrupted by an emergency transmission. A civilian research vessel had suffered a catastrophic system failure in a nearby asteroid field, its crystalline core destabilizing in ways that Federation emergency protocols weren't designed to handle. All ships in range, immediate assistance required. The distress call echoed through both vessels. Core breach imminent, Federation protocols ineffective. Captain Nexel's voice carried carefully measured concern. Phoenix, maintain position. This situation requires delicate handling that your systems may not be capable of managing. We will attempt rescue operations. Sarah muted the transmission and turned to her crew. Options. Marcus's voice came quickly through the internal comm. Their crystalline core is cascading because they're trying to force it back into standard parameters. We could stabilize it using our quantum uncertainty principles. But we'd have to reveal some of our modifications, Sarah finished. She looked at the sensor readings showing the civilian vessel's deteriorating condition. How long until total core breach? 7 minutes at most, Yuki reported. The Eternal Light's conventional approach will take at least 15. Sarah made her decision. Take us in. Sometimes asking forgiveness is better than watching people die. The Phoenix surged forward, its enhanced engines pushing it past the surprised Eternal Light. Federation observers on their bridge watched in shock as the supposedly obsolete vessel maneuvered through the asteroid field with precision that should have been impossible with its outdated systems. What are you doing? Captain Nexel demanded. Your ship cannot possibly handle this situation. Sarah ignored him. Marcus, Yuki, do it. The Phoenix extended its modified power field around the stricken research vessel. Federation crew members watched in confusion as their sensor readings became increasingly chaotic. Using principles that Federation science had never explored, the human crew introduced controlled uncertainty into the failing crystalline core, allowing it to stabilize in a new configuration that, while unorthodox, was no longer in danger of explosion. In the aftermath, as the civilian crew was safely evacuated, Sarah faced a barrage of questions from both Captain Nexel and Federation authorities. She stood in her briefing room, facing a panel of holographic officials. You violated multiple safety protocols, one administrator noted. Your ship's power readings during the incident were impossible. With respect, Sarah replied carefully. We simply applied some basic human theoretical principles to the situation. Nothing we did violated any specific regulations. She paused. After all, there are no regulations governing the application of quantum uncertainty matrices to crystalline core stabilization, since the Federation had never considered it possible. The administrators flickered in agitation, but they couldn't argue with success. The civilian vessel's crew was alive, and technically, the humans hadn't broken any rules. They'd simply done something the Federation had thought impossible. Later, alone with her senior staff, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. They'll be watching us more closely now. Let them, Diana replied. They're still watching for the wrong things. Marcus nodded, already working on new modifications. The best part is, now we have direct sensor readings of how their modern ships handle power distribution. I've got at least 7 ideas for improvements we can hide in our next routine maintenance. The Phoenix continued its patrol route, looking every bit the obsolete training vessel. But within its scared hull, human innovation was steadily creating something unprecedented, a hybrid of Federation technology and human ingenuity that would soon challenge everything the Federation thought they knew about their own technology. The next test of their capabilities would come sooner than they expected, and it would force them to decide between maintaining their carefully crafted facade and saving lives. But for now, they continued their work, hidden in plain sight, turning the Federation's cast-off into something that would eventually change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. Hidden strength. The walls of Commander Chen's office were covered in holographic displays showing the Phoenix's patrol route when the first reports of the missing ships came in. Over the past month, 3 Federation merchant vessels had vanished along the outer rim, leaving nothing but debris fields and encrypted distress calls that cut off mid-transmission. The pattern is deliberate, Lieutenant Commander Walsh explained, highlighting the attack locations. These aren't random pirate raids. Someone's testing Federation response protocols. Sarah studied the data, noting how each attack had occurred just outside normal patrol zones. And the Federation response. Standard procedure, James Carter replied from his sensor station. They've increased patrol frequency, but haven't adjusted their routes or methods. The attackers are learning their patterns while remaining completely invisible to Federation detection systems. Sarah was about to respond when Marcus's voice came through the intercom. Commander, you need to see this. Engineering immediately. In the engine room, Marcus and Yuki had transformed an entire wall into a makeshift quantum probability display. Streams of data flickered across the screen in patterns that would have given Federation engineers headaches. We've been analyzing the debris field readings, Yuki explained, her fingers dancing across the control panel. The Federation missed it because they only scan for crystalline energy signatures. But look at these quantum echoes. The display zoomed in on what appeared to be random energy fluctuations. These aren't just pirates, Marcus continued. They're using modified Federation technology, but they're using it in ways that make our modifications look conservative. Explain, Sarah ordered, already seeing the implications. Someone's taken Federation ships and stripped away all the safety protocols, all the artificial limitations, Yuki said. They're running their cores at critical levels, burning through ships for maximum power output. It's brutal, dangerous, and completely invisible to standard Federation detection. But not to us, Marcus added with a grim smile. Thanks to our own modifications, we can track their quantum wake. They think they're invisible. But to our hybrid sensors. A new alert cut through their discussion. James's voice carried controlled urgency. Commander, priority distress call. Federation science vessel Stellar Seeker under attack. We're the only ship in range. Sarah was already moving. Time to intercept. 12 minutes at Federation standard speed, James replied. 4 minutes if we push our modifications to their limits. What's their status? 3 attacking vessels, unlike anything in Federation records. The Stellar Seeker's shields are failing. Crystalline core showing signs of destabilization. Sarah reached the bridge, her crew already at battle stations. Diana, status of our weapons modifications. Ready, Walsh replied with fierce satisfaction. Those probability-shifted photon cannons are going to give them a nasty surprise. Sarah took her command chair, feeling the subtle vibration of the Phoenix's enhanced systems through the deck plates. All hands, battle stations. Marcus, give us everything the core can handle. Time to show these raiders what an obsolete ship can do. The Phoenix leaped into quantum space, its modified drive singing with power that no Federation engineer would have believed possible from such an old vessel. They reverted to normal space directly behind the attacking ships, catching them completely by surprise. The raiders' vessels were Federation designs twisted into something nightmarish. Their hulls were scared with makeshift modifications, their power signatures burning like stars about to go nova. They turned to face this unexpected threat, clearly expecting another easy target. They're powering up weapons, Diana reported. Energy readings are off the charts. They've stripped every safety system. Target their improvised power conduits, Sarah ordered. James, full sensor data to tactical. Diana, show them what happens when you modify Federation tech with actual engineering principles instead of brute force. The Phoenix's first salvo caught the raiders completely off guard. Probability-shifted energy beams slipped through their overcharged shields as if they weren't there, striking with surgical precision at their unstable modifications. One raider ship spun out of control as its jury-rigged systems collapsed. They're adapting, Diana warned as the remaining ships spread out for another attack run. These aren't typical pirates. Their tactics suggest Federation military training. The Phoenix shuddered as enemy fire slammed into their shields. Shield modifications holding, Marcus reported from engineering. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. Each shot pushes their systems closer to failure. Sarah watched the tactical display, noting how the raiders were trying to maneuver them into a standard Federation combat pattern. They don't realize we're not running on standard protocols. Diana, deploy the resonance torpedoes. A spread of seemingly conventional torpedoes launched from the Phoenix. The raiders easily evaded them, not realizing that evasion was exactly what the humans had planned for. The torpedoes detonated in a carefully calculated pattern, creating a quantum resonance field that interfered with the raiders' overcharged systems. Direct hits on both vessels, Diana reported with satisfaction. Their power grids are cascading. They're losing containment. Stellar Seeker, this is Phoenix, Sarah broadcast. Prepare for emergency quantum wake transit. She switched to internal comms. Marcus, extend our stability field. We're going to have to show off a bit more of what we can do. As the raider ships began to break apart, their abused systems finally failing catastrophically, the Phoenix extended its quantum field around the damaged science vessel. Using techniques that would have horrified Federation engineers, they guided both ships to safety through the quantum wake of the raiders' destruction. In the aftermath, as Federation investigators swarmed over the debris field and rescued science vessel, Sarah met with her senior staff in their now secure briefing room. The Federation's going to have questions, James said. A lot of questions. Let them ask, Sarah replied. We just discovered that someone is out there stripping down Federation ships and turning them into weapons. I think that's going to distract them from looking too closely at exactly how we stop them. Besides, Marcus added with a grin, I've already modified our sensor logs to show readings they'll accept. As far as they can tell, we just got lucky with some desperate but regulation-compliant maneuvers. We need to be ready, Sarah said, looking at each of her crew. Those raiders, that was just a test. They're learning Federation weaknesses, looking for blind spots, and we might be the only ones who can track them. Good thing we're in an obsolete ship that no one takes seriously, Diana replied. It's amazing what you can get away with when everyone's looking down on you. The Phoenix resumed its patrol route, its scared hull hiding more secrets than ever. The Federation might have thought they were being clever, giving humans their cast-off technology to keep them occupied. Instead, they had given humanity exactly what they needed, a platform for innovation hidden beneath a carefully maintained facade of inferiority. The raiders would be back, and next time they would be better prepared. But so would the Phoenix. After all, humanity had centuries of experience in turning limitations into advantages, and they were just getting started. Under scrutiny, Federation Inspector Excel Torum moved through the Phoenix's corridors like a living shadow, his crystalline sensor arrays probing every system they passed. Behind him, Commander Chen walked with carefully measured steps, maintaining the perfect balance of respectful cooperation and quiet confidence she had cultivated over the past months. Your power efficiency ratings have improved markedly, the inspector noted, his translator rendering the observation in tones of subtle suspicion. Quite remarkable for such an aged vessel. Regular maintenance and careful attention to system optimization. Sarah replied smoothly. We'd found that older systems respond well to consistent care. In engineering, Marcus and Yuki performed what looked like routine diagnostics, while actually managing an intricate dance of power fluctuations that kept their modifications hidden from the inspector's advanced scanning equipment. Their movements had been rehearsed dozens of times for exactly this moment. These power conduit configurations, Saltorum paused, his sensors extending toward an exposed panel. They don't match standard Federation templates. Ah, yes. Marcus stepped forward, tablet in hand. The original configurations were deteriorating. We had to improvise with materials we had on hand. I have the maintenance logs here, fully documented according to Section 47B of Federation Engineering Protocols. The inspector's crystalline form shifted colors slightly, a sign of frustration that Sarah had learned to recognize. Every irregularity, he found, had been carefully documented, every deviation justified with mountains of paperwork that technically followed Federation regulations while revealing nothing of importance. The inspection continued for hours. In the sensor control room, James Carter demonstrated their primitive detection systems, carefully hiding the quantum resonance trackers behind displays of standard Federation scanning protocols. In the weapons bay, Diana Walsh showed off weapons systems that appeared to be barely maintaining Federation minimum standards, while concealing modifications that could match any modern ship in the fleet. Your performance against the Raiders was unexpected, Sel Torum said as they reached the bridge. The Federation Analysis Division has been unable to fully reconstruct the engagement from sensor logs. Old ships can be unpredictable, Sarah offered. Sometimes system variance works in our favor. We were fortunate that the Raiders weren't prepared for our irregularities. The inspector's reply was interrupted by an urgent communication from James's station. Commander, detecting quantum wake patterns matching the Raider signatures. 3 vessels, bearing 047, range 40 light minutes. Sarah turned to the inspector. Sir, given the sensitive nature of your investigation, perhaps we should return you to your vessel before we investigate. That won't be necessary. Sel Torum's lights pulsed with what might have been satisfaction. I believe observing your response to this situation directly will be most illuminating. Sarah met Marcus's eyes across the bridge. They had planned for this possibility, but it would require a delicate balance, showing enough capability to handle the threat while maintaining their carefully constructed facade of limitation. Very well. She took her command chair. Battle stations. Standard Federation response protocols. The Phoenix moved to intercept the Raider vessels, its movements deliberately slower and more conservative than its true capabilities. Sarah could feel the inspector watching every action, every command, looking for signs of their previous extraordinary performance. Raiders have altered course, James reported. They're attacking a civilian convoy. 6 ships, minimal defenses. Federation response vessels are 20 minutes out at maximum speed. Sarah did the calculations quickly. At standard speed, they wouldn't reach the convoy in time. Following Federation protocols would mean watching civilians die while maintaining their cover. Commander, Marcus's voice came through a private channel. I've got an idea. Remember those power fluctuations we documented last week? The ones we officially reported as system irregularities. Sarah smiled slightly, seeing where he was going. Mr. Rodriguez, didn't your report indicate those fluctuations could cause unexpected acceleration under certain conditions? Yes, Commander. Conditions exactly like the quantum wake patterns we're detecting now. It would be completely unpredictable, of course. Certainly nothing we could control. The inspector's sensors were running constantly, recording everything. Sarah made a show of checking regulations on her console. Given the civilian lives at risk, we are authorized to maintain course even if system irregularities occur. Note that in the log. What followed was a masterpiece of technical theater. The Phoenix's engines began to show unstable power readings. Their speed increased erratically. Every surge and spike was meticulously documented as system variance, while actually being precisely controlled by Marcus and Yuki's modifications. They reached the convoy just as the Raiders began their attack. The Phoenix's unreliable weapons scored hits that could be attributed to lucky malfunction. Their fluctuating shields absorbed damage in ways that defied Federation physics, but were carefully disguised as random power surges. Through it all, Inspector Sel Torum watched and recorded, his crystalline form shifting through patterns of confusion and suspicion. Every extraordinary performance was matched with an equally extraordinary malfunction. Every success was balanced by apparent system failure. When it was over, the Raiders had fled, the convoy was safe, and the Phoenix's systems were showing signs of strain that would require days of documented maintenance to resolve. A most interesting demonstration, the inspector said as they returned to station. Your crew handles system irregularities with remarkable competence. We've had plenty of practice, Sarah replied. Old ships require constant adaptation. After the inspector departed, Sarah called her senior staff to the secure briefing room. The Phoenix's systems were already beginning to shift back to their true configurations, hidden modifications emerging from their camouflage. "He suspects something," James said, reviewing sensor logs. "But everything he recorded will support our official story. Every deviation can be explained by documented system variants." Meanwhile, Diana added, "We got good readings on the Raiders' new modifications. They're learning, adapting their stolen technology. Next time will be harder." Sarah nodded, studying the tactical data. "They're building up to something big. These attacks are too coordinated, too precise. They're testing responses, looking for weaknesses in Federation defensive patterns." "Should we warn the Federation?" Yuki asked. "Even with edited data, we could show them the pattern." "They wouldn't believe us," Marcus replied. "Not without revealing how we got the information. And even then, they'd probably just increase patrols using the same predictable patterns the Raiders are learning to exploit." Sarah stood, looking out at the stars through the briefing room's viewport. "So we keep playing our role. The old, unpredictable ship that somehow stumbles into success. We document everything, hide our innovations in plain sight, and prepare for whatever the Raiders are planning. And when the time comes," Diana smiled, "we show them why you should never underestimate a species that turned making do with what you have into an art form." The Phoenix continued its patrol, its scared hull hiding more secrets than ever. The Federation might scrutinize every unusual reading, every unexpected success, but they would find only careful documentation of system variants and irregular performance. They would never understand that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't the technology they modified, but their ability to adapt, to innovate, and to hide their true capabilities behind others' expectations of failure. The Raiders were coming. The Federation was watching. And humanity was ready to prove that sometimes the oldest ship in the fleet, in the right hands, could change the course of history. Humanity's mark. The emergency alert came at ship's midnight, piercing the Phoenix's quiet patrol with urgent priority signals. Sarah Chen reached the bridge just as James Carter's hands flew across his sensor station, tracking multiple quantum wake signatures converging on Federation Core Sector 7. "Report," she ordered, the rest of her command crew rushing to their stations. 15 no. 20 Raider vessels just dropped out of quantum space, James replied, his modified sensors providing data that no other Federation ship could detect. "They're on an attack vector for the Federation Strategic Command Center." Diana Walsh's tactical display lit up with threat assessments. "These aren't the stripped-down ships we faced before. They're running cold, using modified stealth systems. Standard Federation sensors aren't picking them up at all. That's why they've been testing responses," Sarah realized. They needed to perfect their stealth modifications before striking at the heart of Federation command. "Federation ships are mobilizing," James reported, "but they're moving to standard defensive positions. They can't see what's coming." Sarah studied the tactical display, watching the Raiders' formation. Their attack pattern would slip right through the Federation's defensive screen, using the blind spots they'd identified in countless probe attacks. Within hours, they could decapitate the Federation's entire command structure. "Options?" she asked her crew. Marcus's voice came through from engineering. "We've got something. Yuki and I have been working on a way to detect stealth ships by reading quantum probability shadows. If we modify our sensor array to broadcast on that frequency, we could light them up like signal flares," James finished. "But there's no way to hide that kind of modification. The moment we activate it, everyone will know exactly what we've done to this ship." Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt. "The Federation gave us this ship because they thought it was harmless. They're about to learn why you should never give humans tools you don't fully understand." She opened a channel to Federation Command. "This is Commander Chen of the Phoenix. We are detecting multiple hostile vessels on approach to Core Sector 7. Transmitting coordinates now." "Phoenix, our sensors show no hostile contacts," came the immediate response. "Maintain position and—" "No time." Sarah cut them off. "To all Federation vessels, What you're about to see will violate approximately 67 regulations regarding ship modifications. We'll accept any consequences after we save your lives." She nodded to Marcus. "Do it." The Phoenix's power core surged as every modification they'd hidden for months activated at once. Energy coursed through systems that had been redesigned far beyond their original specifications. Their sensor array pulsed with quantum frequencies that Federation science had never considered viable. Across every Federation ship's tactical display, 20 raider vessels suddenly blazed into visibility. Their stealth systems, designed to evade standard Federation detection methods, were useless against the Phoenix's hybrid technology. "They're scattering," Diana reported with satisfaction, trying to find the source of the detection. "Not just detection," Sarah smiled. "James, push our sensor data to every Federation ship. Diana, show them what this old ship can really do." The Phoenix moved with speed that shocked the Federation fleet, its enhanced engines pushing it straight into the heart of the Raider formation. Weapons that had been disguised as barely functional now unleashed precisely calculated bursts of energy, exploiting weaknesses in the Raiders' stolen technology. "Federation ships are adapting to our sensor data," James reported. "They're beginning to track the Raiders." Multiple Federation commanders requesting tactical coordination, Diana added. "They've seen what we can do. They want us to lead the response." Sarah stood at her command station, watching as the battle unfolded. "Send them everything. Full tactical data, shield frequencies, weapons modifications. It's time to show the Federation what happens when you combine their technology with human innovation." The next hour transformed the Federation's understanding of what was possible. The Phoenix coordinated the defense, its hybrid systems allowing it to track and predict Raider movements with unprecedented accuracy. Federation ships, following the Phoenix's tactical lead, engaged enemies they never could have detected on their own. When it was over, the Raider fleet was in ruins. Their carefully planned surprise attack turned into a devastating defeat. The Phoenix's bridge crew watched as Federation ships surrounded them, their comm systems flooding with demands for explanation. "Engineering to bridge," Marcus called up. "Now that we're not hiding anymore, you should see what this ship can really do. Quantum core efficiency is 300% above Federation standard. We got more power than most of their modern battleships." Sarah smiled, sending a final message to the Federation flagship. "Phoenix to Federation Command. We're prepared to provide a full briefing on our modifications. I suggest your engineers bring something to take notes with. They're about to learn some interesting lessons about the potential of obsolete technology." In the days that followed, the Phoenix became the center of a technological revolution within the Federation. Engineering teams swarmed over the vessel, struggling to understand how humans had achieved the impossible with technology the Federation had dismissed as outdated. "They still don't quite get it," Marcus told Sarah as they watched Federation engineers examining their modifications. "They keep asking about specific technical changes, but they're missing the real lesson." "Which is?" Sarah prompted, though she already knew the answer. "That technology is just a tool. It's not about having the newest or most advanced systems. It's about understanding what you have and seeing possibilities others miss. The Federation gave us their junk because they thought it would keep us busy. Instead, they gave us exactly what we needed: freedom to innovate without preconceptions." Sarah nodded, watching as Yuki tried to explain quantum uncertainty manipulation to a group of increasingly frustrated Federation scientists. "Think they'll do better with the next species they try to keep in line with outdated technology?" "Probably not," Marcus grinned. "Some lessons you have to learn the hard way." The Phoenix remained in service, its scarred hull now wearing its modifications proudly. It became a symbol of human ingenuity throughout Federation space, a reminder that true advancement doesn't always mean having the newest technology, but rather understanding how to use what you have in ways nobody else imagined. And if the Federation ever again thought about underestimating humanity's potential, they needed only look at their oldest ship, transformed by human hands into one of their most capable vessels, to remember that sometimes the most dangerous gift you can give humans is the one you think is worthless. The Phoenix had lived up to its name, rising from the ashes of Federation expectations to become something entirely new. In doing so, it had taught the galaxy a lesson that humanity had learned long ago. It's not the tools you have that matter, but how you use them.